What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we're going to be making a cat house for both of my cats that go outside at night. And I'm making this to keep them out of the weather, whether it's rain, snow, sleet, whatever weather goes on, or just keep them away from other animals that might try and chase them around. And this is going to be made out of some half-inch plywood, and it takes about 2/3 of a sheet of plywood. It's kind of weird because there's a bunch of different lengths. There's 7 pieces I got to cut, and I never have found a way to kind of make it come out nice on the plywood, so I can make it a little bit more efficient. But right now I'm cutting what's going to be basically the siding of the cat house. So this was made out of some of those treated dog-eared boards that I had bought for my mom's raised garden bed. This is just some leftovers that I had, and I think I used about five or six of those boards to cover the whole cat house, all the sides and the roof with these boards. So it's pretty efficient for material wise. Like I said, roughly 2/3 of a sheet of plywood, and then about five or six of these dog-eared boards. And it can usually get. I don't have very much for extra on the offcuts. And then right now I'm going over the siding pieces with a rabbiting bit, which is cutting about a half of the depth out, so that way once they're done being cut, they'll start to kind of nest together, and this will end up kind of being like a shiplap siding. That's kind of the what I'm going for. So as you can see here, I've got 2 pieces that I've already put the rabbit on, and they just kind of nest together, and it ends up being almost perfectly flat between the 2 pieces. Some pieces bow and flex a little bit here and there, but it gets the general idea across, where once the siding's together, you shouldn't have very little gaps in between the boards there. And then moving on, this is one of the end pieces. I've cut the peak into it. So these are, when I cut them off the table saw, they were 18 by 18 square. And then this is going to be the front door. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting out the opening for the cat so you can get in and out. And it's about 10 inches wide on the base. And then for the arch, what I did is I actually took the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, and then I just traced the circle that way, and that's how I got that kind of smooth archway. And then moving on, we're starting to assemble it here, and I'm just using pin nails to get the sides held up at the beginning. And then from there, once I get it all kind of dry fit together, then I go through with my 12-volt insulation driver, countersink the holes, drill some pilot holes for everything, and then I come through with my Skil 12-volt drill and add some screws, some 1-inch screws, and that's what's actually holding the whole frame together here. And it's the same for the bottom and the top. I go through and I add some screws and everything to secure everything. I didn't really want to do glue, just because it'll add some structure to it, but at the end of the day, I'm not really expecting this thing to last a whole long time, just because it's going to sit outside, it's going to get rained on, it's going to get snowed on, and if it falls apart, it falls apart. It's not really the end of the world. Yeah, just because this was like $30-40 with plywood, and then some scrap dog-eared fence boards that I had in my garage from, like I said, a previous project. All right, so now we're going to be working on putting the feet. So the feet are also the 2x4s that were left over from that previous garden bed. And then what I did here is I took the scrap cutoffs from when I made the angle cuts on the ends, and I made a little jig here to hold the feet a 1/2 inch in on the edges. That way, when I put the screw in through the inside, it's basically square with what's the inside. So as you can see here, you can kind of see a little bit the outline of the feet. And what I've done is I've pre-drilled the holes on the inside, and then I'm just using that jig that I just made to hold it in the right spot, and then just running 2 screws on all the feet all the way around. And then as you can see, this is what it looks like without the roof on, with all the screws and the legs and everything on. And the reason I use screws is because it'll hold the feet a little bit sturdier than nails. And then this is the roof. And what I did is I took my tri-square to basically get that measurement from that overhang on the front of the roof here. And then I just drew my pencil along the edge there to give me a good nailing line. And then on the back side, we're just going to go flush. That way I could set it up against the house if I need to. Otherwise, I could always, you could always push the roof back a little bit or make it a little bit longer so you have overhang on the front and the back. But I didn't really want to have the overhang on the back when I built this one. So I just had it flush, and then I'll bring the siding on the back all the way up flush against the back. And have a little bit more of overhang on the front because that's where the cat's going to be coming in and out. And since it's got the opening there, I want to do my best to keep as much snow and rain out from the inside as I can, just because I didn't put any finishes or anything on the inside to protect that plywood. So as I'm putting on the siding pieces here, basically what I'm doing is, what I've done is I've kind of preset most of it up. So I'll push the first piece all the way up to the edge of the roof line there, and then I'll tack it down with the pin nailer, and then get the other one in, push it up, tack it down, and then after that I'll come through and I'll countersink some screw holes, add 3 screws on each board, and then 3 for the bottom kind of trim piece that just kind of covers that last little bit up. And then I'm just going to do the same thing all the way around. I do end up messing up the back side here. I put the boards in the wrong way. So what I did was, instead of having the cutout be on the bottom, where it kind of cuts in towards the house, I had it go the other way. So basically, if it would have rained, that would have been being directed towards the house instead of away from, which is what you want. So in a second here, you'll probably see me take all those off and then flip them around and then put everything back on. But that's all I did. It's not a big deal. I just had to re-countersink the holes on the other side, and then it was all good to go. But like, as you can see, this goes together pretty fast once you have everything cut and staged. And the roof was the same process. Set everything down, tack nail it in, and then once it's done, then you just go through and screw it all down. It's pretty easy. I don't really worry about the bottoms flexing out too much. On the roof, on the front side, I did screw those ones down on the ends just to make sure it doesn't get ripped off, just because it is the roof. And then right here you can see me going through with my Japanese pull saw, and I'm just trimming off that excess so it matches the roof line. And then I'm just measuring the front pieces here to start cutting those out. And then I have to cut 2 extra longer pieces for the top part of the front. And I'm just kind of getting my idea of the angles and all that stuff that I need. And this is what it looks like, all nice and finished. This is what it looks like when it goes outside. So I put a little top cap on the roof there to help try and keep as much of the water out as I can. Pretty simple construction. The inside's nice and clean, and I have the option to add like a dog bed or something inside there, like a blanket or something like that for the cat in the future if I decide to do that. Get back in there. Could you make it a little slower, please?